Hi, everyone. We had a brief technical issue, but we're here again, continuing with chapter 4, verse.
Great. Thank you. So I'll just read the verse one more time in case I don't know how the video will be for those watching afterwards. So, being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me, taking refuge in me. Many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. So love is the goal. Love is our goal. Love is always our goal. If you think about it in life, what's the sweetest experience in life is love, right? We see that people feel empty actually without love. And so we're seeking love. We're seeking Krishna and we don't always know it. We're seeking a loving relationship that's permanent, right? That's we don't want it to die. We don't want it to end. So we're seeking a love that is with our source. And so here Krishna talks about they're getting purified. And I mentioned before, purified of what? Purified of this material concept that if we are in the illusion that we are the body and that we are all of our desires and our thoughts are us. And then we're going to live in a very different way. We are going to have anxiety. We are going to get stressed out. We are going to have anger when we don't get what we want or what we think we want, what the mind is wanting. We're going to have fear. We're going to have such a variety of experiences. Now, when he says freed from attachment, freed from fear, free from anger, like that sounds like a miracle. I mean, for me it does. I don't know how it sounds to you, but wow, freed from all these things that cause us so much pain. So, but he how do we get freed from those things? We're freed by taking shelter in God, really understanding and trusting that He is our protector, that He does love us, that He has our best interest at heart. It says, taking refuge in me. Refuge. It's like, oh, yes, finally, someone I can trust, someone who will always love me, always accept me, never burn me, be there on my worst day for me, understand me, care for me. And it's someone who, even on our worst day, is still loving, still loves us fully. And it's in a sense there's no judgment, right? Because Krishna gives us what we want. He creates this whole planet for us to have our desires, and so he's not judging. He's just here, go and do it. But when you're ready for something real, when you're ready to not pretend that you're the master of this world, or you're the master, when you're ready to understand that you're small, you're important, and you're loved, and he's massive, massive compared to us. So he's actually the controller. He's actually the, well, in chapter 5, Srila Prabhupada used to quote this text a lot. And last night I was with Srila Vishnu Maharaj, Srila Vichar, Bhakti Vichar Vishnu Maharaj, and he quoted it. And so it's fresh in my mind, the end of chapter 5, 529. So I'll read it in a moment, but it's the peace formula when you understand that God is the receiver of everything we do. He's the recipient of our austerities or our sacrifices, and he's actually the controller. He actually is the master of this world. And so when we understand that and we surrender to that in a loving way, then we feel peace. We feel sheltered. We've taken deep refuge. So that's one element, is taking refuge. And then he also says, being fully absorbed in me. So what does that mean to be fully absorbed in Krishna? So it's like every moment of every day, we're aware that we are serving something that's much more large than us. We're serving someone who's personal, someone who is so powerful, so wealthy, so famous, so strong, so beautiful, so self satisfied, right? Krishna possesses all the qualities that we get attracted to the unlimited degree. So, like, if we were fully absorbed in him, we would bring that to our conscious awareness. So, today's class is about how to feel love every day, how to feel more and more love. So, it's really about our choice and where we put our consciousness. Where do we put our awareness? So here it's talking about being fully absorbed in Krishna. So how do we get there? How do we get to 24/7, 24 hours a day absorbed in Krishna, absorbed in our relationship with this love that we've actually been hungry for lifetimes. We've been hungry for this real love for lifetimes. And sometimes we're in a relationship and we're fighting with our partner, or we're frustrated. We want them to be different than they are. But that's actually this illusion, because they're not supposed to be different. They're not supposed to be different than who they are, you know. They've been created exactly how they're supposed to be. And sure, that people can grow and shift, but if sometimes we get ourselves lost in, like, our attention is on the other person, and how to if we change the other person, then we'll have this different experience. But it's actually because we're wanting a relationship with a perfect person. We're wanting a relationship with God. We're wanting a relationship with someone who loves us and knows us. And so it's, Prabhupada used to say, it's a perverted reflection. So, like, in the spiritual world, when there's love and we know our position as minute and tiny, important and loved, but tiny, and God is the center. He's the center of the universe, and he's the all powerful, and he's the owner of everything. And he's so we're offering our love to, in that direction. We're offering our love with devotion to this powerful entity who is kind and caring and funny and cheeky and beautiful and lovely, and with you on your worst day, always in your heart. He's always there in your heart on your worst day. He's there for you. And it's a matter of changing our consciousness to connect to that reality. So, how do we get absorbed in Him all day long? Well, we're superior to our intelligence. Our intelligence is superior to our mind. So, you notice your thoughts. Notice when you're annoyed at somebody else. Notice when you think that things should be different than they are. Those are thoughts. And then you pull back. Now, your intelligence can be situated by thinking, by just taking 5 minutes in the morning and meditating. Okay, what's the situation here? I'm a tiny soul in this big body. My perfect relationship was with God. I want to know God. I want to love God. I want to have affection for God. I want to meditate on God, say God's names, but not in a neutral way. Say God's names with the awareness of all that He's ever done for you. So you might even take a moment, like they talk about gratitude meditation. Well, I recommend in the first 5, 10 minutes that you wake up, you take a moment to take inventory of all the times you felt sheltered, all the times serendipitous things happen. Who is that? Providing those moments, those magical moments of, oh wow, it's serendipitous. No, that's Krishna serving you. That's Krishna loving you. That's Krishna providing you this material realm to have these experiences. So you take inventory, and then you also take inventory of how special the souls are in your life. Your son, your husband, your wife, your friend, your mother, your cousins, your whoever it is, whoever's in your life. Pause for a moment and remember, they are not their bodies. They're spirit soul. So they're this tiny, beautiful soul that's meant to serve Krishna, not meant to serve you. They're this tiny soul. Good afternoon, Colleen. So they're this tiny soul meant to serve God. And you're a tiny soul meant to serve God. And that's where we find deep satisfaction. And then when you see them doing things that aren't exactly how you would map it out, then you can almost laugh and relax, because you don't have the attachment, right? You're starting to get free of attachment. You don't have the attachment to the idea that you're the controller and they're there for you and they should adjust. That's the illusion. That's so when he says purified by knowledge, we're not purified right now. We are in the illusion of the material realm. So if we take 5 minutes in the morning to really stop and meditate on the real situation here, the situation of deepening our love for Krishna, but also remembering who our um, circle, who they really are that are in our circle. My son is a soul that's actually the same age as me. He's a spirit soul. If I can meditate on that, that my son is not, I'm not here to teach him. I'm okay. I have my service, I have my job as a mother, and I'm teaching him externally to some degree. I'm modeling what I want him to, you know, imbibe or know about. But actually, he probably is more spiritually elevated than myself. He's taken birth in a better situation than I did. Because each generation, especially on the spiritual path, right? Each generation is getting, is starting, their starting point is in more enriched spiritual environment. So, like right now, he's spending time with sannyasis, which are saints that walk this earth. He's spending time with these saints that give their full life, that they are fully absorbed in Krishna. So he's spending time with them. I'm spending time with them. But when I was born, my mother was serving and meditating and chanting God's names, but I wasn't hanging out with sannyasis, right? So it's like every level, every birth, there's new opportunity, deeper opportunity, because we get to save all of our spiritual credit, right? So that's why it says even just a few steps in this direction can save us from the greatest danger. So when we do devotional service of any kind, chanting Hare Krishna, reading, it's collecting in our spiritual bank account, and it is never taken away, it's never depleted. So that means every soul, as parents in the spiritual atmosphere, spiritual communities, as parents, if we can stop and remember that these children are possibly, very possibly, more spiritually elevated than we are. And from that stance, we teach them with so much respect and care and remembering they're not their body. They're not those tiny little bodies. They are a soul, same age as us, eternal within their smaller body. Same with our spouses. If we can meditate in that morning time, who is my spouse? Or who is my friend or my mother or my father, right? Any relationship you want to choose, you stop and meditate. Who are they? They are spirit souls, and their divine position is in loving connection with Krishna. They're not meant to satisfy my whims. So just helping the mind and the intelligence know that by bringing our awareness to who we really are, our consciousness is the soul. The soul knows this. We just have to remind ourselves because we're in the material atmosphere all the time, all day long. So if every day you plug in, every day you take 5 or 10 minutes to sit and meditate on all the things that God has done for you, and you sit and meditate on who you really are as a soul and who the souls that you interact with really are and their real position, then you're starting to have a much less chance of anger, right? Because anger comes if we don't get what we want. But we're able to even maybe find that desire switch and transition it from I want this, I want this, I want this to oh, I'm a soul and I want a loving relationship with Krishna that's eternal, that never lets me down. I'll never get cheated on. I'll never get left behind. I'll never get forgotten. Like that is what we're all after. So if we remind ourselves of that right from the start of each day, then that's our consciousness, that we're placing our consciousness in truth. And our attention then goes there. So now, with all the people that you're around, you can focus on serving God together, helping encourage them by doing it yourself or your inspiration or get inspired by their the way they serve. So then all of a sudden our goal is completely different. So we are going to feel more love for the people in our life also. We're going to feel more love for God because we're bringing our awareness to all that God is and all he gives us. And we're bringing our awareness to that we're really actually remembering, oh yeah, I'm actually hungry for love with you because I have a wonderful marriage, but the satisfaction I feel by my discussion with God means I pour my heart out to Krishna. I go in front of a picture of Krishna and I look at him in the eyes and the face because he's a person, and I share honestly. He knows everything already, but I share honestly what's going on for me and what I need help with. And I can feel that throughout my day even there's different magical things that happen that help remind me to stay on track, to not get lost with the mind's desires and whims, but to remember I'm a soul, I'm a servant. So recently, Vishnu Maharaj, I'm so fortunate to have him here. He named our home. He named it Bhakti Vaibhava Puri Ashram, which is my Guru Maharaj's name, Srila Bhakti Vaibhava Puri Maharaj. Bhakti Vaibhava also means the opulence of bhakti, the luxury of bhakti, the opulence of bhakti. So of course now when I wash my dishes, I'm more in that consciousness. Why? Because he named it, because he brought it to my attention. My house is no different today than it was a month ago or a week ago, but it has a name. Oh, it's an ashram. Oh, it's Bhakti Vaibhava Puri Ashram. So first of all, Puri, of course, it brings me back to Jagannath Puri, which visiting the spiritual holy dhams is transformative. So I can remember that energy in that place where everything is about Jagannath, everything is about Krishna. Jai Jagannath, you hear everywhere. Like they're doing festivals and pulling Jagannath into their hearts on a big chariot. It's a metaphor for pulling God into our hearts, pulling him closer to Radharani, to Lakshmi Devi and Gundicha temple. And so there's all these wonderful pastimes that happen there, but there's also the energy of the people. They always are remembering God. So they're saying all the time, Jai Jagannath. So it's like their consciousness is there. It's in their relationship with God. So especially in the West, eh, we forget. We forget so easily. So again, if we want to get love more and more each day, if we want love for Krishna, love for ourselves, and love for those around us, it's the same formula: waking up. And how do we wake up? We we get purified by the knowledge. So let's meditate on that knowledge. We have so much knowledge already, but we don't necessarily have it realized. But we can meditate on it. We can meditate on it even if we don't fully deeply understand it. Like let's just bring our minds there. So once you've meditated on all that God's done for you. And that might be, yeah, I have a home and I have water and I have air that I can breathe and I have trees that give me oxygen. And literally, it can be those things that God has brought to you just to bring your awareness there of how much you're taken care of, actually. Because right now we're in a world of like anxiety, fear, I don't have enough. But like let's stop and start our day with I do have enough. And that enhances our trust that we are taken care of. So even if we don't feel it, we can meditate in that way to help remind us and direct our mind to how taken care of we actually are. And then in that space, who are we? Who am I really? And even if you don't know that you're not the body, pause and meditate. Like, okay, say it to yourself. I'm not this body. I'm not this body. I'm not this machine. I'm not my desires. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my personality even. We're something else. We're something every lifetime our personality probably changes with a different body, right? In this lifetime, your personality might be like a red, red convertible. It's like zoom, zoom fast. I can relate to that. And then maybe another lifetime, your body is like, a beat up old truck where you're just like tired all the time. And then another lifetime, maybe your body is, you know, some other mode, hopefully sattvic. But we're not these bodies. We're not these personalities. We are superior to these. That means we can trump any of our conditioning. We can actually shift any of our conditioning because the conditioning is material. It's attached to the body. But as we chant Hare Krishna more and more, spending time with the spiritual sounds, and we meditate, we direct our mind and our intelligence to the facts that we've learned from Bhagavad Gita, anything you've heard or read, and even things, especially things that we think, oh, yeah, yeah, I know that. Oh, that, like, oh, I'm not the body. Oh, me, I know that. Oh, do you? I want you to ask yourself, do I know that? Do I actually know that? How would my life be different if I actually knew that? I'm not this body. It's the first lesson in spiritual life, but we often intellectually understand it and we don't meditate on it. We don't deeply know it. It's not realized. And of course, the realization can come from mercy, from, reciprocation. Krishna reciprocates with us. And so as Krishna reciprocates with us, realizations come. So the last thing I wanted to share, so about the fear and the anger and the attachment, when we're freed from those, we can be freed from those simply by knowing what is true, by knowing deeply that you are not the master, that you are essential in that God created you and He wants your special flavor of love. He wants your special offering, your special flavor of what you're going to offer. And we're not the controllers, but we're safe. So I think sometimes we try to control because we feel not safe. So we are safe. We can never be killed. How well do we know that? You will never die. Never. This little play that we have right now, that will end. This drama of maybe, let's say, maximum 100 years, that will end. And if we know who we are, then it's a beautiful drama and we have deep love. And I'll share that love doesn't end. So like the relationships that we have, will I can't say for certain that we'll meet everyone again, but I know when my brother left this planet in his bodily form, I know that the love that we had carried on. I had enough experiences after he left that the love carried on. And so that shows me that if we really connect on the soul to soul level with the people we love in our lives, then when the body changes, there's still a deep connection. There's still a relationship. There's still love, and it might transcend the charade, the husband wife relationship, the layer that is the drama, the son and mother or daughter and father. Those that will change, but love stays. So as we know more deeply who we really are, and we know more deeply who they are, that they are the servants of Krishna, and that Krishna loves them. He loves them just as they are. He created them just as they are. So God created them just as they are. So then the ironic ego comes in and goes like, "Oh, I want to change you." And that is just a distraction. That's a distraction based on the illusion that we're the controller, and it's based on the illusion that they're there for us. So those are the illusions we want to give up by waking up and meditating on what is true. These souls in our lives, they are, and I'll say this, it sounds silly. I think many people might just know this, but we need to remind ourselves they're just as important as you are. How often do you live your life knowing that your partner is just as important as you? Your mother is just as important as you. Your father is just as important as you. That you all of your spiritual journey is equally important, and that they're on their spiritual journey and God gave them free will. So who are we in a sense to take away their free will? Now, when we have love, of course, there's give and take and there's flexibility, and people will have relationships that are practical and shift for you. But keeping in mind who that person really is, that they're actually meant to serve Krishna, and that you're so fortunate to have a soul in your life that's wanting to have loving relationships with you, when really their connection to the source is what's going to deeply fulfill them, and your connection to the source is what's going to deeply fulfill you. So even also, then the last thing I'll end the class is meditating that Krishna's personal. Like in this purport, actually, of this verse, I didn't even get to quote chapter 529, but in the purport of this verse, Srila Prabhupada talks about different stages of material conditioning and material attachment. And one of them is this like concept, like God's not personal, but he is personal. That's just one layer of material conditioning, this concept that he's not personal. So I'll read a little bit of what Srila Prabhupada wrote, and then we'll end for today. In the beginning, this is actually, he quotes in the purport of this verse, he quotes the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the nectar of devotion. In the beginning, one must have preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. Very good place to be. First place to be. Associate with those who are spiritually elevated. In the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master. Under his instructions, the neophyte, the new devotee, begins the process of devotional service, loving exchanges with God. By execution of devotional service under the guidance of a spiritual master, a spiritual teacher who already knows purely, knows how to serve, knows what God likes and enjoys. So, under the guidance of that spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachment. There you go. Simple. Attains steadiness in self realization and acquires a taste for hearing about the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. This taste leads one further forward to attachment for Krishna consciousness, which is matured in bhav, or the preliminary stage of transcendental love. So that's the way that's the stepping, these are the stepping stones to love. Love, transcendental love of God. Real love for God is called prema, the highest perfectional stage of life. In prema, there is constant engagement and transcendental loving service for the Lord. So then in prema, we are fully absorbed in love of God. So by the slow process of devotional service, under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, one can attain the highest stage, being freed from all material attachment, from the fearfulness of one's individual spiritual personality, meaning like sometimes we've suffered in this world. And so the idea that we're going to have a personality, a spiritual personality forever can be scary. We kind of like want to opt out and like merge into bliss or something. But that fear is just because of all the material trauma that we've had. When in the spiritual realm, there are personalities. It's right. Variety is the spice of life. So Krishna wants variety. He wants spiritual personalities and relationships. That's what gives fun and excitement to our lives. All the loving, I'll say all the loving characters that are in our lives give spice and excitement. And it's the same in the spiritual realm. So our spiritual personality might not be the personality of this body, this lifetime, but we have a spiritual personality, and that flavor is individual and personal. So we're getting rid of fearing that as we follow the directions of a spiritual teacher, and free from the frustrations that result in void philosophy. So frustrations from the concept that we're all one. We're all one. Because if we're all one, that's way more boring than what we have right now. So why would that be superior? You're going to eventually want something else. So they say you can go into the Brahman, you can go into, the effulgence of the Lord where you're just like, I'm Zen, but you're a soul. So eventually you will want a personal exchanges, personality, personal relationship. And then that's it. Then one can ultimately attain the supreme abode of the Supreme Lord. So that's from Nectar of Instructions, Nectar of Devotion. And then I know I'm over time, but because I said I was going to do it, I'm going to do it anyway. So that's all about love. And to keep in mind, the love comes also, let's see, when we meditate on Krishna. So I'll just read the last verse of chapter 5, and it is helping us meditate on Krishna, because that's the secret of getting more love every day. Meditating on Krishna, meditating on who we really are, that we're not this body, meditating on the people in our lives being spirit souls, and seeing what God's given us. And so part of that is perfectly connected to this verse. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material misery. So yes, love and peace. That's what we're after, love and peace. Thank you all. It's been an honor and a pleasure to meditate on the Bhagavad Gita and be with you.
Thank you, Haripriya. Yeah, I mean, you touched on so many important points. I love how you talked about, at least just starting the day from the perspective of, having enough versus not having enough. And, using that to kind of increase our trust because you're right. We are very distrusting, right? Like we're living in fear that like, I don't know, that like these, something terrible might happen and it will, but that doesn't mean that that's not because we're, sheltered and protected.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've never thought about it that way of just like living with this lack of trust. But yeah, I really like that you touched on that. We have this nice comment from Colleen. She says, wow, wonderful class, Jai Jagannath, bringing God into our heart, love and gratitude morning, love the gratitude morning and spirit soul. Yeah, I love that too. Yeah, I think it's so important. And I guess quickly, what I wanted to ask you before we conclude today, we've talked about taking shelter, which is something that we hear a lot in
Mhm.
spiritual language, but is taking shelter like just like a state of existence that we have, or is it a verb, something that we actively need to do, or maybe both?
Mm. I mean, that's a beautiful question. Taking shelter. I mean, it's funny. It's like taking shelter. We can be, we can go from taking shelter to not taking shelter like in a second, right? And we know it from our consciousness. We know it from our awareness. So, like, oh yeah, Krishna's got my back, or ah, like, right? So, and again, I'm not saying that Krishna having your back doesn't mean there will be no material suffering. We're talking about spiritual awareness. So knowing that you're permanent and that you actually never die and that no one around you actually ever dies, but you're in this temporary planet. There is suffering in this temporary planet of material world because we want to be in the spiritual world. We don't want to be here where our partners die or our children die or our parents die. We don't want that because we're not made for that. So when we take shelter of truth, we take shelter of Krishna, we're remembering, oh, okay, this is temporary. So it's almost like I can handle this. I can handle the pains and sufferings of the up and down roller coaster of this material arena because I remember this material arena is not my home. And that takes spiritual awareness. That takes spending more time with Bhagavad Gita and more consciousness that we're a soul, we're not our bodies. And from that, that's taking shelter. To me, that's taking shelter. And can I not take shelter 5 minutes later when I completely forget that and I'm back in my material identity and I'm in the roller coaster of the material world of like, oh no, this happened. Oh no, oh, this horrible thing happened. And this buyer, I'm a realtor. So it's like this buyer is having this problem and the seller is doing this and they pulled out and it's like drama, right? But if I'm like, I'm a spirit soul, all these people in this interaction are spirit souls. Our real purpose is love of God. Our real purpose is serving God and raising our consciousness. Now, I'm not just helping with a transaction in real estate. Now I'm helping souls on their material up and down roller coaster by keeping my consciousness clear with detachment, with some level of when you have spiritual attachment, then you can have more easily material detachment. So to me, that's taking shelter. It's so yeah, it's all of what you asked. It's a verb. It's a recommitment second by second. I mean, it's it's not something like, oh, I take shelter, now I'm done. And, I mean, I think for pure souls, that's where it's at. But for us who are moving towards purity, moving towards love of God, real love, then it's definitely a practice. Keeping our
Awesome.
consciousness clean.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think the best commitments can be like re-established every day. So thank you for touching on that, right? It's not a one-time thing. Yeah, but thank you so much for joining us. And Colleen, everyone who is listening, and we look forward to seeing you Monday at 7:30 p.m. to continue with chapter 4.